We've had full employment, stable prices. We've got a higher standard of living, motor cars, television sets, better pensions, better education. Everything has been enormously improved.
Of course, we certainly won't sling any mud. But I'm not going to pull any punches either. This is a serious matter, and you can expect hard-hitting, serious arguments from us.
And I think our main appeal at this election is, as Joe Grimond said, that a Liberal vote is a protest against the British political system being divided up between two powerful party machines, and the real issues are never brought before the House of Commons.
Well, I think the theme of the programme is really given in the title, the next 5 years. In the last 5 years or 8 years of Conservative government, it's obvious, everybody really knows it, that we've made tremendous progress economically. The pound is sound, the economy is sound, and as a result, we've had full employment, stable prices, we've got a higher standard of living, motor cars, television sets, better pensions, better education. Everything has been enormously improved. One really knows that. In the home front, therefore, we've got to go forward and do better still, keeping the secure foundation upon which it all depends. Then we can't just nowadays, if we're worthy of ourselves and our history, and it's still more if we think of ourselves as our duty as Christian people, just be content with prosperity at home. We've got to help other people. Well, you do a lot now, but we must try to do more, especially the undeveloped nations, and particularly, of course, those in our Commonwealth or for whom we are responsible. And then I think the third great question dealt with here is what I call the whole complex of foreign affairs. How can we get peace and justice too? How can we untangle some of the troubles we're in? I tried to do something last spring when I went to Russia. Then there was a question of ultimatum. Now at least it's negotiation. And in this interval, while the statesmen are visiting each other, which is what I want them to do, well then when we meet together and make these difficult negotiations, the real question the people have to judge is which set of ministers they want to be entrusted with this very onerous but tremendous task.
Sir, the manifesto mentions the talks you would propose to have with representatives of industry and the trade unions. What would be the subject of these talks?
Well, I think particularly automation, how the new machines can best be used for everybody's benefit, and all the kind of things which are developing out of the new technological advances. There are bodies that do that now under the Treasury and one under the Minister of Labour, but I think we ought to make a new start and really try and get together, because it's to everybody's advantage.
The manifesto talks of maintaining full employment, but in fact unemployment has risen over the past 5 years.
Well, by a very small amount. I mean, in the old days, the pundits used to call full employment 3%. Well, now it varies 1.7, 1.8, I think it's 1.9, 2, that sort of thing. It is really full employment, and everybody knows it. The problem is, and I think other people raised it, we got a passage here about certain special areas where there are difficulties have emerged, and that's what we've got our new plans to deal with.
You speak of your opposition to nationalisation. Do you intend to denationalise further?
No, I think the country would be happy if this thing was called off. Nobody really wants any more nationalisation. I think the opposition the Labour Party have to go on talking about it. And I think it would be quite foolish to try to denationalise anymore. What we've got to do is to make the best job we can of the nationalised industries.
So what have you in mind when you speak of reforming licensing and betting laws?
Well, I think a lot of people feel that it's a bad system when laws can't be enforced and everybody evades them. Our betting laws have reached a point when that kind of thing really leads to corruption and brings the law into disrespect. And I think it's that kind of thing which ought to be put in harmony with what in fact is modern practice.
Government expenditure goes up each year, and yet the manifesto talks of reducing taxation. How do you propose to do this?
Well, by going on with this curious paradox that has in fact happened. We're spending today, actually, about 1,400 million a year more than we were 5 years ago on the social services. Because more schools, more teachers, everything. We must do it. A modern society must. But we're actually, if we'd kept the same level of taxation as we found, we would be taking another 1,300 million out of the people's pockets. You say, how does it happen? Because we're taking a slightly smaller proportion of the total national income. In other words, if the people are more prosperous and wealth increases, Then you can do these things and at the same time certainly not add to and even reduce the burden of taxation.
I would say, first of all, pensions. It's enormously important what we're going to do about the old people. And as you know, we want to increase the pension for those who are already over the pension age by 10 shillings a week at once. And the same goes, by the way, for the other benefits. And then there's the future, where we put our great superannuation plan, which provides for half pay on retirement, against the Tory plan, which we think is totally inadequate and indeed a bit of a swindle. Housing, well, the issue there, I think, is whether we're going to have a speed up in council house building so that we can deal with overcrowding as well as slum clearance, whether we're going to be able to reduce interest rates so as to help people who want to buy their own houses, and whether we're going to really modernize the 5, 6, is it 7 million, I think, older houses which haven't any bathrooms and toilets. And we say the only way to do that is to let the local councils take them over and do the job. Health, well, that's pretty important too, and we think it's been badly neglected, and we propose, quite deliberately, to spend a good deal more on hospitals, because there again the overcrowding is pretty scandalous. We also think we should get rid of the charges, prescription charges and the others, and make the service free. Employment, jobs, of course, of vital importance to everybody, and we've been through a pretty bad period recently. Slight improvement at the moment, but there's no knowing how long it's going to last. We believe that our policies of expansion without inflation are the right ones.
You were questioned fairly closely at your press conference on your proposals for a capital gains tax.
Yes?
Is this going to affect things, for instance, like football pools?
No, it isn't. I'm glad you mentioned it. I didn't have time to get through the list. We do think it's necessary to alter the tax system so that those who get their money too easily by speculative capital gains should pay their fair share of taxation, and those who earn it by the sweat of their brow or by ability, brains and responsibility and so on, should pay less. And the capital gains tax is, in our opinion, long overdue. Of course, there is one, as you know, in America.
Mr. Gaitskell, will you be specific about your proposals on nationalisation? Do you intend to touch any industries other than steel and road transport?
We've no plans for any other industries, though we do think that something must be done about water. It's not nationalisation, but it is a national plan, a grid of some kind, to avoid the shortages which we're running into now. But apart from that, we've no other plans, but we do reserve the right, if after full inquiry we find that a particular industry is falling down on its job and that public ownership is the right remedy, either to take it over in whole or in part. I was asked, as you know, what sort of instances? Well, supposing you find that an industry is doing very badly and that really all the units are much too small and that you've got to amalgamate them and bring them together, that indeed something like a monopoly is technically the best way, well, then we believe it should be a public monopoly, and that would be a strong case for public ownership. But there'll have to be an inquiry first, and as I say, we've no other plans at the moment.
Conduct their campaign without any mudslinging. Are you approaching it in the same spirit?
Well, I was delighted to hear Lord Hailsham say that. Repentant sinners are always welcome. And of course, we certainly won't sling any mud. But I'm not going to pull any punches either. This is a serious matter, and you can expect hard-hitting, serious arguments from us.
Well, the theme of the manifesto is people count. That is to say, we're emphasizing the importance of the individual, no matter who or what he or she may be. And we have drawn attention to the various aspects of policy which we believe are important issues which have got to be brought before the public. In particular, we've got our own policy on the British H-bomb. We believe that we should stop the manufacture of the British H-bomb and the testing of nuclear weapons and offer to contribute to a general Western nuclear program. Although we haven't mentioned Mr. Khrushchev's latest proposals in the manifesto, we are very keen to see those fully considered. We think this is an opportunity which ought to be taken. Then we go on to the suggestion that there will be quite a saving if you don't make your own British H-bomb, and that will enable you to do two things: to bring down taxes and to spend money on the right things, in particular on education and the pensions. We want to see the pension for single people go up to £3. We want to see more money spent on the health service, and there's a good deal that's got to be done in helping the newly developing countries. But above all, I think we've drawn attention to the fact that with our policy of ownership for all and our policy for giving more opportunity in industry, we believe we can make a real contribution to industrial peace, which means that we'll get more efficiency out of industry, and that in itself will help us to get the cost of living down. And I think our main appeal at this election is, as Joe Grimman said, that a Liberal vote is a protest against the British political system being divided up between two powerful party machines, and the real issues are never brought before the House of Commons.